See how many people want to live there.
Well, the truth of the pudding is in the tasting, but that will have to come after we defeat our present visual enemy.
Well said. Bob Chapman, internationalforecaster.com. Folks can get a free copy. Comes out on Saturdays, twice a week, but Saturday is the next date tomorrow, so go there, check it out. We also post some of the great articles written by Bob Chapman. Bob Chapman, always great having you on with us. See you next week.
Thank you very much, and I'll be there. Bye-bye.
All right, God bless you. Take care. I know we've got Nicolette and Jan and Chad. We'll get to you. Dahr Jamail is coming up. Just got a new book out. Talk about brave. This guy goes all over to these battlefields worldwide, and he's right back here where he was born and raised in Texas. So he'll be reporting to us on what he's witnessed in Lebanon, in Iraq, all over the world on the other side. He wrote an article I saw a few weeks ago exposing Obama's bait and switch. The troops aren't leaving Iraq. They shifted some into Afghanistan and Pakistan. We'll break all that down on the other side. My website's Infowars.com. And we're simulcasting at prisonplanet.tv.
He's the T-Rex of political talk. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
All over the country, FEMA is preparing for total martial law. Not my words, theirs. That's Fox News, CNN, ABC News. We can play the clips we have before. Coming up when Dahr Jamail leaves us at 40 after, I'm going to give you the latest developments there. They're amassing all this decontamination equipment, tents, material at bases everywhere, including Camp Mabry here in Austin. People are asking us why it's there. Under level 6, World Health Organization rules, forced inoculation, quarantines, lockdowns. Is this going to be the cover story for their New World Order activity? Bush tried it back in 2002, 2003 with the Model States Health Emergency Powers Act. That's coming up in T-minus about 32 minutes from now. I'll go over the latest on that front and take a few of your calls on that subject. But I wanted to go to Dahr Jamail. Dahr has a lot of courage. We've interviewed him many times over the years. He was in Lebanon during the last war there. He's been in Iraq multiple times. He's an American living right here in Texas, out in Marfa, out there with the Marfa Lights. It's originally from Houston. And his reporting's always turned out to be very, very accurate. He's broken a lot of major news. One of the stories he just put out a few weeks ago, the reason I wanted to get him back on was the U.S. occupation of Iraq continues unabated. And I went and researched this story and others. They're redrawing the major city maps to not count U.S. military bases as part of the city, to now say they're out of the city, or they're withdrawing from the surge that put them out in little substations back into their main bases. So it's a 3-year-old policy. So it's literal shell game. And they've also, of course, rotated 30-plus thousand troops into Afghanistan and Pakistan, and those numbers are growing. So here's the Democrats getting into office in 2006 in the House, electing Barack Obama in late 2008. And I talked to Democrats on the street, and they go, yeah, we're not in Iraq anymore, because they had that big psyop, kind of like Bush with the aircraft carrier, mission accomplished. I mean, this is sick. If Bush would have tried this, would we have put up with it? And they also make it a left-right issue. Ron Paul isn't for the war. Most Republicans aren't. It's CPAC, the big Republican deal. He got a standing ovation against the war. Nobody's for this war but a few morons. And I know the troops want to come home, 80+% in polls. Eyewitness, Dahr Jamail joins us. His new book is out, available at better bookstores everywhere. The Will to Resist, Soldiers Who Refuse to Fight in Iraq and Afghanistan. Like Pat Tillman, boy, they killed him deader than a hammer. Dahr Jamail, great to have you here.
Good to be with you, Alex. Thank you.
So much has happened since I had you on probably 2 years ago. You've been out of the country most of the time, hard man to get a hold of. We'll have you back up soon, but today in limited time, tell us the saga, what you've seen on this quest the last few years.
Well, regarding the continuation of the occupation of Iraq, it's really amazing to me to just watch how, folks like you and me, Alex, who get the U.S. Empire Project and get that these occupations of both Iraq and Afghanistan were permanent ventures going into them. I mean, before they even happened, it was very, very clear what was going to be happening there.
It was stated, yeah.
And it was, and and then we have even literally just today, or just yesterday, when puppet Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki from Baghdad shows up in D.C. and is hanging out with President Barack Obama, and he says, quote, "If the Iraqi forces require further training and further support, we shall examine this then." It's talking about 2011 at that time, based on the needs of Iraq. So he's already, of course, just laying the propaganda path out there for the U.S. Occupation to continue unabated, and then coupled with what you're just saying, redrawing the maps of cities, so now technically the bases aren't inside the cities. But, my contacts in Iraq are saying patrols are still happening in Baghdad, patrols are still happening in other cities. Some of the bigger bases, like the one in Baghdad, are still right there. We're still looking at over 130,000 U.S. troops there, and more flowing into Afghanistan. So we're really, again, we're just seeing a continuation of Bush policy in both Iraq and Afghanistan.
But isn't this classic corporate doublespeak or soft power where Obama always, instead of Bush is saying, I don't care, I'm going to do what I want, Obama will say, you have won, I won't hire lobbyists, or you have won, I'll pull out of Iraq, or you have won, I won't give banker bailout bonus money, and then he does the exact opposite. I mean, he's a lot slicker because he doesn't give you a fight. He tells you, okay, I agree with you, but then goes around behind your back. I mean, it is really hard to stomach this.
Well, I think you're exactly right, and I think that's actually the core of how and why he's been as effective as he is, like, getting most of the mainstream Democrats to really drink the Obama Kool-Aid where, hey, you voted for him and he says he's going to change everything, and just because he's more charismatic and articulate and can actually complete sentences unlike Bush, people believe him. He's a hell of a salesman, and he's done a really good job, but, the facts are stacking up against him. Everyone, when people are getting kicked out of their homes and the government keeps ramping up domestic threats against people and all of this, we're in both occupations continuing unabated, the facts are starting to pile up against him. So I think inevitably at some point, despite him being a very wonderful branding, marketing tool as he's been, I think eventually the facts are going to kind of obscure that enough to where enough people can see it. At least that's my hope.
Well, I hope you're right. I mean, evidence shows his approval rating's dropping, but I've seen the polls. It's not really over the war. They've kind of put that out of sight, out of mind as they put troops in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, major escalations, really scary stuff, menacing the Russians, moving more troops into those areas, kind of continuing Bush's sneak attack on South Ossetia. It's clear the corporate managers of both parties, as the RAND Corporation document said 6 months ago, need a global war to go ahead and establish this new global banking dictatorship. So people are waking up to Obama, but only because he didn't fix the economy overnight as he had promised. When you talk to Democrats or you talk to progressives, are they starting just from what you see on the ground to see through him? Or are they saying, like some Democrats I talk to or anti-war folks go, well, at least he's not Bush. At least he makes me feel good while he betrays me.
Well, it's unfortunately, Alex, it's been more of the latter where, granted, there are more and more people waking up, and certainly more and more of us on the fringe that have known this all along are seeing more people kind of enter into our community and are really seeing the reality. But unfortunately, I think most people are still saying that, yeah, okay, things are bad, and yeah, Obama's disappointing, and he's not fulfilling all his promises, but he took over a really desperate situation, so we have to give him more time, et cetera, et cetera. So really, indications are that I think, unfortunately, the bulk of people are still kind of sleepwalking through this and really just not willing to look at the fact that, Barack Obama, for example, just talking about Iraq and Afghanistan, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to see that he kept Bush's Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates. He kept all the highest-ranking people in the Pentagon there from Bush to just continue over. I mean, there's been a seamless continuation in policy. And we're not even talking about domestically, but just talking about foreign policy and the U.S. empire abroad. We're looking at this continue unabated. We're still running on the 2006 National Security Strategy, of course, which was revised revised under Bush, and when we look at that, actually it was updated in 2008 for Obama. And let me read you the first just two sentences from this document. It says U.S. interests include protecting the nation and our allies from attack or coercion, promoting international security to reduce conflict and foster economic growth, and securing the global commons with them and in securing the global commons and with them access to world markets and resources. End quote. I mean, there you have it. I mean, that's the national security strategy. That is U.S. foreign policy. Any questions?
No, there's not any questions, but then they cynically lie to the people of the United States. Now, in the time we've got with you, get into what you saw in Iraq on your first visit, what you saw in subsequent visits, what you really have seen in Lebanon when you were there during the bombardment in 2006.
Well, what I saw in Iraq, the first visit and all subsequent visits was, just there was, over here it's really easy for people to kind of hear the propaganda. Yes, we're going to liberate the Iraqi people, make everyone safer and happy and bring the McDonald's and all of this stuff. But when you go over there and you see it firsthand, you see the mask ripped off, the propaganda mask ripped off of the U.S. Empire Project. And like all empires through history, where we talk about, Russia going into Afghanistan or the British going into Iraq in the early 20th century, or the Mongols or Hitler or whatever, you see basically just brutal, savage empire. We're going to come in and rape